Hey guys, it's Kendra. Today I'm here to do a new kind of series on my channel. I wanted to title it Twin Talk. I was originally just going to do a 2-year update of the girls. If you guys are new to my channel, I have 2-year-old twin girls and I'm also pregnant with a little boy right now. I asked what topics you wanted me to cover about the twins for my update. And I got so many questions and topics to cover that I filled out 2 pages full of stuff. And I was like, okay, there's no way I can do a video on all of this. So I figured I would break it down and maybe do like 3 topics each video and just get into it more. So today we are going to talk about 3 topics, which were pretty much the most common things you guys asked about. So the first one is BINKIES, pacifiers, and how we got rid of them, why we got rid of them, when we got rid of them, kind of like a little bit of everything, backstory. The second thing is sleep. I don't know if it is a thing, but I'm kind of thinking like a 2-year sleep regression is a thing because a lot of you guys have been asking about sleep and naps and kind of like what goes on after you get rid of the BINKIES for naps and all of that. So we're gonna talk about sleep schedule, what has been changing because it's been changing a lot. And then the last topic I want to cover is tantrums. Kind of like tantrums and discipline, how we deal with it on a daily basis. That's what we're talking about in this video. I hope you guys find this helpful, and I think it'd be easiest if you guys have a specific topic you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments of these videos and I'll just keep a running tally. And then as I start to see like a common theme of a topic, I will put that in my next video. With that said, let's get started. Okay, so I feel like BINKIE, I call them BINKIES, so I'm gonna call them BINKIES, but I know everybody has their own name for them. It's a weird topic because some people are really anti and some people are completely for them. And I was kind of somewhere in the middle. Andrew was completely for them. He did not want to get rid of them. And I also think it depends on how you were as a child. And if you had it till you were 3, then you're probably thinking, who cares? Let me let my child have them to their 3. So I think it just totally depends on the parent and what you really care about. Like if you don't care, then don't stress about getting rid of them. Personally, I cared, and I had read this, and it was saying a sign that you should get rid of your BINKIES is when they bother you. Like when they bother the parent, then you should get rid of them. And that was kind of a good indication, like they were starting to really bother me. And I think they were bothering me more than Andrew because I'm home with them all day. And it was like a constant battle with them. When they were first born, I gave them like the little wubba nubs. And then when we sleep trained at 4 months, I completely took them away and it was fine. And then once they could start like reaching things, I started giving the pacifiers back to them. Your kids are talking to you and you want them to be interacting with you rather than just having a pacifier in their mouth all the time. So that was something that bothered me, is like, you can't hear what they're saying. You can't understand them. And it's just kind of annoying. And so that was one of the reasons. So I started taking them away during the day and then they would just have them at night. Then they got sick and I found that we were giving them their BINKIES a lot more to just kind of soothe them. We also, at one point, were giving them back to them in the car. So like on the car rides, they'd be better. And then whenever we go places, Andrew would always be like, let's just take them with us, like in the grocery store. And I'd always be like, no, like they don't need them. They need to learn to be without a BINKIE, like they're fine. I probably would have, I actually did try to get rid of them earlier. And then Andrew was like, why do you care so much? So you definitely have to both be in the same boat. Like if your husband is not on board with you, it's not gonna work, because what would happen is I would be like taking them away and then Andrew would be giving them back to them because he's like, who cares? And I'm just like, ugh. So it was like a constant struggle. And then at night, they were like requesting colors. Like they wanted a pink one, and then they wanted a purple one, and they wanted a rainbow one. And they wanted one pink one and one rainbow one. And so like every night they had to make sure that we had to make sure they had the rainbow one and their pink one. And then if one saw one, they'd want, like, they would fight over each other's BINKIES. It was just getting like so annoying, and I was like, this is the worst. So Andrew still wasn't on board, and I was like, whatever, I'll just like let him have it right now. Like there are worse things to worry about. And then we went to the river, and again, they were like wanting them the whole time we were there, and it would be a freak out if they didn't get it. And when we were driving home, they were requesting certain colors in the back seat, and I'm in the front seat like feeding them their binkies. And then Violet or June, I don't know who it was, she like wanted a pink one and then threw it on the ground. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I like couldn't reach back and get it. And then she was like, wanted a purple one, so I gave her a purple one, throws it on the ground. I was like, okay, if you're gonna throw them on the ground when I'm giving you your specific color you're wanting, like I'm so over this. And I looked at Andrew and I was like, this is ridiculous. And like they were like freaking out crying because their binkies were on the ground now. And I'm like, you threw them on the ground, you know? So it was clearly a major point of stress for me. And also it's like, I'm pregnant. I don't want to deal with this. And I had always said like, I want to be done with them by the time they're 2. And now they're 2 and 2 months and we're still talking about it. So Andrew even looked at me and he was like, okay, like this is really annoying, like don't give it back to them, like they're just throwing a fit. He just kind of was like, yeah, I understand why this is annoying now for you maybe. And so we literally like sat there in the car, we're driving home, we looked at each other, we're like, we're done. We like made a pact, we shook hands, and we're like, they're going in the trash. And it's not like we're gonna keep a couple just in case, like no, we're done starting right now. So that is what we decided. And I will stick, like if I say something, I'm sticking to my guns. I am not going back on it. Like I am a stickler. So we're in the car and I'm trying to think it was June. June was definitely more attached to them than Violet was at this point. She cried forever. Like we're just sitting in the car and we have a long drive ahead of us and she is just freaking out, like freaking out over the binkies. And Andrew and I are just like, just take deep breaths, take deep breaths. We had the Sirius XM on spa radio and we like just kept turning it louder and louder. We had the windows open to like make some more noise. And Violet actually didn't even care. Like she didn't even really cry or anything. So we stopped at that Palm Springs outlets and we were shopping and they kind of were fussy about them. But then they forgot about them. Like they get sidetracked so easily. So if you just kind of like talk about something else, they're fine. So we like got lunch and all this stuff and got back in the car and no crying. There's no crying. It was done. So we had like, I don't know how long it was. Could have been an hour, could have been 2 hours, it could have been 30 minutes, but it felt like eternity that June was just like having the biggest meltdown ever in the car. But we got back in the car, they're totally happy, they're singing, they're laughing, it's like nothing happened, okay? And just a little tip, if you are getting rid of them, make sure to remember where they all are because we had them like everywhere, like somewhere on the ground in the car, and I just would keep like grabbing them and like putting them in my pocket. So after that, we come home and it was nap time and they cried a lot. They eventually fell asleep, but like they definitely cried a lot. Not really Violet, again, it was mostly June. She just threw a big fit, but Andrew is always good about it. He's like, they're gonna tire out, like crying's exhausting. So eventually she's gonna be tired and she'll go to bed. So she did fall asleep. And then for bedtime, I don't even think they really cried that night. They asked for them, and we were like, oh, no, they're all gone. Like, we just kept saying they're gone. But they fell asleep pretty fast at night, and I was kind of surprised. And they didn't wake up in the middle of the night, like looking for their binky or anything like that. So the next day, they maybe asked one time. And I'm like, Andrew, they're not even like asking. I mean, I was thinking after this serious meltdown that June had that it was gonna be like horrendous and so stressful, but they really didn't ask for them. And I then started saying like, if they ever did ask, like before, because usually we would give them their binkies before they would go to take a nap or go to sleep. So it was like a system. We'd like give them their binkies and we'd go in the bed. So they're used to that. So they'd be like, binkies? And I'd be like, oh, the fairy took them. The fairy took them. And we had just gone to Disneyland too. So I was like, Tinkerbell took them. And they're like kind of looking at me and I was like, yeah, she gave them to all the babies. The fairy took all the binkies and she gave them to the babies. And I had heard a lot of people tell me that, like they told their kids like the fairy took them and they gave them to the babies. And I'm like, okay, that is like a load of crap. Like the girls are not going to either understand it or like care. But I kept saying that. And I would say like, they said, thank you, Junie, thank you, Violet. Ever since then they rarely ever mention them. And now the funny thing is sometimes like I'll be putting them to bed at night and they'll go, where'd my binky go? But it's not like a demanding like, where's my binky? I need it now. It's like, where'd my binky go? And I'm like, and I ask them and I go, where'd they go? And they always go, the fairy took them to the babies. And I go, and what did they say? And they said, thank you, Junie, thank you, Violet. I don't know if that's just some crazy tactic that just works all the time for people about the fairies, but just wanted to let you know this is what I tell them, and they somehow understand that. So that's where we're at. They're gone. They're completely gone. Threw them all away. It literally was like one day of crying, and I just think to myself, like, why didn't I do this sooner? We will see what happens when this baby comes because, you know, he's gonna have a binky, but I'm kind of telling them like, they always say the babies need the binkies. And if they ever see a baby crying like in public, they always say he needs a binky or she needs a binky. So maybe they're gonna think that like binkies are just for babies, which I mean, they are. So I'm just very happy that they're gone. It's like one less thing that I have to think about, one less thing that I have to pack. Moving on to the next topic, which is sleep. So honestly, the binkies didn't really affect sleep for the worse. They actually helped with sleep because it's one less thing that I have to worry about them having at night. It's one less thing that they're gonna wake up in the middle of the night looking for. But they do, when they sleep, have they have teddy bears, they have blankets, so they have other things to like soothe them, which I think is helpful. But as far as their schedule goes, they have been taking naps around 1 o'clock for a really long time. I'm trying to think like when they went down to one nap. It was a long time ago. They've been taking just one nap for quite some time. And then at night, they usually go to bed between 7:30 and 8, and then they wake up the next day. On average, I would say 6:30. Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's 7. It's not usually later than 7. But that's like their general sleep routine. So let me kind of go into what we do for their sleep routine and how that looks, and then we'll talk about like sleep regression. For bedtime, we don't do baths every night. It's like every other night for a bath. And then we put their jammies on, we come out here, we watch a show. I'm taking a couple books out here, so I'll read a couple books before we go down to sleep. And they do have milk still before bed. Not always. They sometimes want it, sometimes they don't, but they are drinking milk. They drink it out of these little sippy cups from Nook. I'll link them down below. Everything though that I usually talk about, like products, they're all on my blog under my shop. Just go there and like, you can find everything. June has to have her teddy bear. Violet has to have her little baby teddy bear and her blanket. We tuck them in their blanket. They have just like it's a Serenoni toddler size blanket. So soft. I'll link that down below as well. And then they have a little toddler pillow. So I'll put all this down below for you guys to make it easy. And we lay down, or they lay down, and we hold hands, we say our prayers, and we say goodnight. We turn off the light, I turn on their sound machine, I just use white noise. We've been using white noise forever. They typically talk to each other for a little bit. They'll kind of sing a little bit, and they're out within 10 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes is very rare. Like usually they're instantly asleep. Usually I would say on average it takes them 5 minutes to fall asleep. But if they cry, sometimes they'll like cry and it's for a reason. It's not like they cry all the time. It's usually because they like want something dropped, or I don't know. So I'll go back in and maybe she couldn't find her teddy bear. I don't know. So, when they were sick, like I had to wipe their nose a bunch, but usually if they're crying, I'll go and see what it is and say goodnight and I'll leave. But we never rocked them to sleep. We never would wait until they would fall asleep out here and bring them. We have always, from the very beginning, since they were born, I think, put them to bed, or at least since they were 4 months old when we sleep trained, put them to bed when they're tired, but not asleep, like they're awake when we're putting them to bed. And they are just so good at falling asleep now, and they can self-soothe them. So if you guys are in the early stages of like newborn stage and you're having issues, I would highly recommend sleep training. I know it's not for everyone. I know it's not for every baby or every parent, but for us, it was magic. But I mean, who knows, with this baby, like we may not have to sleep train him, but with them, we just had to. And they were really like demanding all the time, like in the middle of the night. And this was back when I was nursing, and they would wake up to nurse and they wouldn't even be nursing. It was just like out of comfort. So when you're waking up 5 times a night to nurse them and they're not even nursing, it's like, yeah, this can't happen anymore. So that's when we knew it was time. But now they fall asleep so easily. They sleep the entire night without a peep. Every now and then they'll wake up, and I think it's from like a bad dream. And so we'll kind of just like wait, like usually Andrew's passed out, he doesn't hear him. But usually I'll give him a couple minutes, and sometimes they'll just fall back asleep. If it like keeps going, I'll go in and like just go shh and like calm them down, give them their bear, and they're okay. But from sleep training, we use the program called Sleep Sense. You learn really good tactics that you can use like as they get older. So it's just the best. I have a whole video on sleep training if you guys want to see like more on that. I also have a blog post on it. I'll link all that down below, but they're really good sleepers. Okay, so that's nighttime. Nighttime is like easy peasy for us. Naps, on the other hand, are a different story. They always have been pretty good until we transitioned them into their toddler beds. And the reason we did that is because they started climbing back and forth into their cribs. And then June one day fell out of her crib. Like she fell over the top onto the ground. Was it June or Violet? I think it was June. And it freaked me out. I'm like, oh my God, she could like actually really get hurt by falling out of her crib. It's like a long fall. There are some things you can do, like tents to put over their crib and all these little like gimmicky things. But Andrew and I were just like, we'll just transition them into their toddler beds and we'll just deal with it. So I really didn't think that we'd be doing that so soon, but that's just what happened. It was kind of just like out of safety that we did it, because I don't want them falling out of their cribs. And a lot of people said you can move their cribs apart from each other. Their room is pretty small, so there's really not much space to do that. And even if we did, I feel like they would want to climb out even more to get to their sister, because yeah, so that's what we did. We have the Pottery Barn cribs, and they come with the conversion, or they don't come, you have to buy it, the conversion kit to a toddler bed. So we did that, and it was definitely an adjustment. I did a whole blog post on it that I'll link down below that goes more in depth, but let me just say that the thing that worked the best for me was having the baby monitor, and make sure you have it with the talk feature. So what I would do is anytime they get out of their crib, I'd watch them. For some reason, going into their room would make it worse. So I would just like watch them on the monitor. Whenever they would leave their bed, I would talk and I would say, get back in your bed, kind of like in a stern voice, and they would run back into their crib. It was working up until a point. And then all of a sudden they started like going nuts, and they were running back and forth. They were like pulling out blankets out of their dresser, and it was like a circus in their room, and they were doing totally fine. And I'm just like, what is going on? And so there was a 3-day span recently that they did not take a nap. And I was just like, no. Like, I'm not okay with this. I'm not done with naps. We're not done with naps. There were only 2, and I was like researching like, when do kids stop taking naps? And it was like some kids, like a quarter of kids stop when they're 2.5. And I'm like, they're not even 2.5. And then it said most kids go till they're 3, and then some go till they're 4, and then it said like you're done by 6. Either way, the majority of kids are still napping at this point. And for me especially, like nap time is my sacred alone time. Nap time, and Andrew doesn't really understand this. I don't think any dad understands this who doesn't stay at home with their kids, at least. Because when you're with your kids 24/7, Like there's never a moment to just shut off. And especially when you work from home, like you count on that time to get stuff done. And it's like a couple hours that you can focus and just really get what you need to do done. So anyways, I was not ready to be done with naps, let's just say that. So what I've been doing lately, which some of you guys actually told me to do, is lay in their bed, in their room until they fall asleep. And I was kind of like, didn't know what to do at this point. It was just, you know, they're not napping. And Andrew and I had left, we went to LA this weekend and my mom came over and I was like, good luck, they're not napping. And she's like, what? And so she like pushed them in a stroller and they finally fell asleep. But I'm like, I can't do that. Like I can't just have them be in a stroller. I need like the house to me. So I laid in their room. This was a couple days ago. I just put a couple blankets down for myself and a pillow and I said, all right, we're going to bed. And they talked for like a few minutes, not much at all. And then they fell right asleep, like right asleep. And I stayed in there for like 10 minutes until they were out and then I left and they had a normal nap. It was amazing. So I did that the next day. Same thing, they talked a little bit. They never even really tried to get out of their bed. If they did, I think, I just said, get back in your bed. And just, I sleep like away from them, so I'm not looking at them. But they just kind of move around and then they eventually fall asleep. And I would just say, shh, like if they ever started talking, I would just say, shh, it's quiet time. So that is what I've been doing for the last few days. Yesterday, actually, I fell asleep. And I think I fell asleep for like an hour in their room. I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, what time is it? And it was like 1:30 and I put them down like 12:30. But it's okay. I probably needed a little bit of rest. But what I'm gonna do now is like try and see what they'll do if I don't go in there. Since they're back in the habit of like going to bed without running around like crazies, I'm gonna see, we'll see today actually. Right now they're at Andrew's parents' house. She took them over there for a little bit so I could get some stuff done. I know they still need their naps. Like I know they need to rest. And they haven't been napping as long either. They kind of have been sleeping, they've been going down a little bit earlier, like 12:30. They've been getting tired and they've been getting up at like 2:30. And then I've been putting them to bed a little bit earlier since they've been waking up earlier. It's usually just kind of like give and take. Like it's not like a strict bedtime every night. It's just kind of like, well, they had a really bad nap, so we'll put them to bed earlier type of thing. But it was definitely like a rare thing of them not napping. I think there's been 5 days total of their entire life where they haven't taken a nap. And 3 of those days like just happened. So for the most part, they've been really great nappers. It's just kind of like a recent thing. I think something that has to do with it is they're kind of realizing that they have more independence now and that they can run around if they really want to. So they're definitely like changing as far as that goes. So it's kind of like you just have to remember that they're the kids, you're the parent, and they can't run your life. So we have now reached our last topic, which is not a very fun one, but it's a very important one, which is tantrums and kind of just like how they've been changing and behaviors now. So I think a lot of it, honestly, like a lot of their whining and a lot of their crying and fights is because there's 2 of them. So there's definitely like a lot of bonuses of having twins now because they will play together. They're never alone. So it's kind of like a nice feeling when, say, I'm getting ready or doing something like hopping in the shower and I know they have each other. They always have a playmate. They always are together and they definitely sometimes don't want me to be there now. Like they'll kick me out. They'll say, go away because they just want to play the 2 of them. So I let them have their time. And it's really cool to see like their bond. And that is definitely something that people told me you will see later on. Like they don't play with each other right away. But when they hit 2, I noticed it a lot. Like they play a lot more together. One of the hard things about having twins is they fight over everything. And I'm sure it's true with like a lot of siblings too. But I definitely think that with twins especially, it's like another level. And it's not even like they're fighting over not having the same toy type of thing, because Andrew and I decided this like early on that we're not gonna always buy them 2 of everything, because even if they want, like, so we would get them, say I'm gonna get them a toy, I'll get them different like animals or something like that, because most of the time they get sick of it and then we have 2 of something, you know, it's just like a waste. So I try to get them different things, and then if they both want the same thing, they generally forget about it within a day. What has been happening lately is, even if they have the exact same toy, they say June has Cinderella, I'm looking, there's a little Cinderella toy there. Say we have 2 Cinderella toys, and June is holding a Cinderella toy, and there's another Cinderella toy literally right here. They're gonna fight over the one Cinderella toy. Like, that is just how it's been for the last month, I would say. And even Andrew was just like, oh my God, they fight over everything. Like, they just want what the other has, no matter what it is. It could be the dumbest, it could be a piece of tape. And they're like, I want the tape. No, it's my tape. No, it's my tape. And that's something they sort of say now all the time is, it's mine. No, it's mine, or it's my turn. They did not ever used to do this. And all of a sudden it's mine, my turn, like I want it, like very kind of demanding towards each other. So that has been something that's just like, oh my gosh. So, okay, say they are fighting over a toy. If we saw that June had the toy originally and then Violet took it from her, then we make Violet give it back to June. If neither one of us, me or Andrew, saw who had the toy and they're fighting over it, then we just take the toy away and say nobody gets the toy. They'll fight or cry for a little bit, but then they forget about it. Sometimes they haven't bit each other yet, thank goodness, but they do like pull on each other's shirts a lot. So they'll pull on shirts, they'll like pull each other down to the ground or whatever. So we do like intervene when they're doing that, and we'll say like, you cannot pull her shirt. And when I get down to their level, like I'll get down to their level and look them in the eyes. Excuse me, I burped so much when I'm pregnant. And I'll just kind of say like, no, you are not allowed to do that. Like, keep it simple, keep it short. They're not gonna be able to like listen to you reason with them, you know, about some lecture. But as long as they know like that is not allowed, then it usually gets the point across to them. I haven't done timeouts in a while actually, but I was doing timeouts and those were working. So if they are like really not listening to me, I will say, if you do this again, you're getting a timeout. They can't open doors yet, thank goodness. So I put them in our bedroom, usually for a timeout, and they just sit there by the door and cry until I get them. So I leave them in there until they start calming down. Like, once I start hearing them calm down a little bit, I'll go in there and I'll say, are you ready to come out? And usually they like say sorry and they give me a hug and they become an angel. Timeouts definitely have worked well for us in the past. Violet, okay, June listens a lot more to me. Violet is a lot more strong-willed and will just say no. Like, she says no all the time. Now, all of a sudden she starts saying no. And it's like a very like attitude no. And sometimes we just have to like hide our laughs because it's just so funny. But a couple times I'll just count to 3 and that sometimes works for her. So it's kind of like figuring out what works. But it was so funny. One day, what was she doing? Oh, I was trying to get them in their clothes. And I changed June. Like, June's super easy to change her diaper and change her clothes. Like, she just comes right with me. But Violet is like, no, I don't want to change my clothes or whatever, and like run away from me. So she was in her bed and she was like fighting against me to not come to get changed. And I was like, I'm gonna count to 3 and then you have to come down here. And so she's just sitting there like looking at me like with these like crazy eyes. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3. She gets up, like the second I say 3. She gets down, scoots down on the floor. Her face is like this. She goes, and then she sits down, and then I change her. Like, but she had to wait until I counted to 3. Like, it wasn't like, okay, let me come down. I'm gonna wait until you're done saying 3, and then I'm gonna come down. So let's just say that I am going to have my hands very, very full in a couple years, because if they're only 2 and I am like dealing with all of this attitude, but we have given them a few spanks, and it's not like I feel like June reacts more to it than Violet. June sometimes takes things a little more personally, it seems like. Like, from the outside, June is very carefree, free-spirited, but if you get mad at her and you like raise your tone, like especially Andrew, if Andrew yells at her, or like if my dad ever says something, oh my gosh, it's so funny. She just instantly goes, "Ah," like she just crumbles. So she knows when you're really mad at her. But every now and then, if they're like really not listening to me or Andrew, and like nothing we're doing is getting through to them, I'm gonna give them a little spank on their bottom. And I know some of you probably are like, so against that, let's not leave all these comments down below talking about spanks. When they are doing something bad, if they're doing something that they know they're not supposed to do, like being stern with them and telling them no really works. Like, I get a lot of questions asking how I keep them out of our drawers, like in our kitchen, how I keep them out of certain things. And honestly, just being repetitive and telling them no really works. They never go in our kitchen. Like, we never had to childproof anything in our kitchen because we told them early on, like if they opened a drawer, we would say, no, you do not open that drawer. And they know that they're not supposed to. One other thing I did want to say about tantrums is when they throw a fit that's like for no reason, like they're throwing a fit for like absolutely nothing that makes any sense, I don't acknowledge it. Because pretty much when they throw a fit like that, what they want is for me is to get a reaction out of me. So if they do throw a fit for no reason, I ignore it, and they eventually forget about it, and then they don't even know what they're crying about. So if it's a fit for like if they got hurt, obviously I'm going to like hug them and soothe them and make sure they're okay. But if it's like a fit for nothing, like if, I don't know, they make up crazy things, I'm not gonna give them any attention for that, because then that just reinforces that behavior, and then they're gonna associate, like if I throw a tantrum, then I'm gonna get my way and then she's gonna come help me or whatever, you know what I mean? And my pediatrician did tell me that too. She was like, when they're throwing tantrums, do not acknowledge it. So at least it kind of like validated what I'm doing. So yeah. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that your kids are going through stages all the time. Like, everything's a phase. Like, the whining's a phase, the tantrums are a phase. Like, it's all a phase. So I think that sometimes if I'm like, oh my gosh, I think back to when other things would bother me when they were smaller, and I don't even think about those things anymore. So everything kind of has its time, and I'll probably look back and be like, oh my gosh, they were just like so cute when they threw their tantrums. No, I don't think I will. So that is everything I wanted to talk about. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you guys want to hear about next, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye.